Alright, we're going to try and give this a little whirl. We got the old nickel rig working. And we're just going to kind of try to ease up on in here just a little bit. With this Mako just a little bit. We got time for one last pass, and then that's what we're doing. One, oh, there we go, I got him. On the Mako. Ooh, that's a good one too, kids. We're back out here at the Big Lake, and it's another tough day on the water as those fish are in a funk. So, what do we do when the bite is tough? We throw one of these, right? Or is it this? And neither one of those. Everyone knows that's the best. Is it? We're going to talk about it. You don't want to miss this one. Stick around. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have your chance at having your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and today we're talking about when you get out on the water and that bite is very slow going. It's very tough. Those fish are being very finicky about what baits they want, and they don't seem to want anything. It might be the weather, it might be the lake is pressured, who knows, but for that particular day, the bite is exceptionally tough. Now, a lot of times when you go onto YouTube, you're going to find one specific answer, a cure-all bait for whenever the bite is very slow, and that is the good old spy bait. I've got a Lunker Hunt spy bait here. It's got a prop on either side, and this it's simple bait, chuck and wind, right? You cast it out there, you reel it back in, and those fish, they start biting, right? This is our magic wand. If you ask any YouTube angler, they will tell you the spy bait is the ticket, right? This will take your day from nothing to something. You'll go from not catching anything to having that bite turned on, right? Problem is it doesn't really work that way. I mean, think about it. If a spy bait were so magical, if it was the cure-all, if it was the magic wand that just turned those fish on, why even tie on any other bait? Why tie on a swim jig or a Texas rig or a lipless crankbait or whatever? Why doesn't everybody just tie on a spy bait and go using that? Well, the reason being is because it's complicated. And I know here comes the downvotes, here come the people clicking away. But hear me out, okay? This is important if you want to catch fish whenever that bite is very, very tough. Yes, a spy bait is a great bait. It's an exceptional bait at catching fish whenever those fish are lethargic, whenever they don't want to bite. But there's a caveat. These only work in certain situations. They're not a cure-all. They're not a wonder drug. They're not going to fix all of your fishing problems. And a lot of times, we as anglers, we see these and we think, oh, well, just tie on a spy bait, good to go, everything's fixed, right? Well, think about this. What if those fish aren't biting because they're offshore, they're suspended deep? How are you going to fish that? Well, a spy bait, especially something like this, is a very slow sinker. This, I've seen wacky rigs that sink faster than this thing does. Whenever you use a spy bait, it's great for particular situations. It doesn't sink very well. But if you've got fish that are way, way down, sure, you can get this down there. You can get it down to depth if you're willing to wait that long. But you're going to crank it a few times. Those blades are going to spin. It's going to create drag, which is going to create lift. It's going to bring that bait right up. That's just the way it works. These don't run real low. They kind of come up into the water column as you're retrieving them because those blades, they create lift. So a spy bait is not necessarily a deep running bait. If those fish are 20, 25 feet, you're dragging the spy bait across, they're going to ignore it. I mean, it's not within their strike zone, and if their strike zone is incredibly small that particular day, they're not gonna go after it. So, what do? I mean, if they're not going to go after a spy bait, what are they going to go after? Well, we have other alternatives. A spy bait, like I said, is not a cure-all. It's a great bait. If those fish are suspending and they're kind of shallow, say 8 to 10 feet, a spy bait can work exceptionally well. But for super deep water, not so much, not in my experience. Now, There may be brands of spy baits that are much heavier and they may run a lot lower, but something like this, your average run-of-the-mill spy bait, they generally don't run that low. They generally run just a few feet under the surface. It's basically a prop bait that runs just under the surface. So now it will call some fish up, but if they're lethargic that day, who's to know how deep it's going to call them up from? So that's where we have alternatives. And for me, whenever I'm out in open water and I'm fishing deep submerged brush and I see those fish, they're suspended pretty deep. A spy bait isn't really going to work. Well, that's when I reach for something like this. This obviously is just your regular old run-of-the-mill swim bait. This is a Eco Pro tungsten. It's what I call a not a Keitech Keitech. I mean, it swims like a Keitech. It's very similar to a Keitech. I've got it on a 1/8 ounce lead swim bait head. It works just fine. Now, a swim bait is a great tool whenever you want to target those deeper fish, especially when they're being finicky. I can get them to choke this when they're ignoring pretty much anything else, including something like a drop shot. This is something that they react to exceptionally well. Now, again, this is not a cure-all. If those fish are higher up in the water column, if those fish are in thick vegetation, then this is not going to work so well. We'd have to make adaptations to this in order to fish it the way we'd want to. But still, this works better for me than a spy bait targeting fish that are deeper in submerged brush piles or off timber or whatever, something that I can get down there to them, something that even like a shaky head or a drop shot, well, this, I don't know what it is about this, but they seem to inhale it. I have had for the past few days, I've been fishing off points after a cold front, after a frontal system. I've been working this and they have just been inhaling this and they've just been choking it. So if you can't get anything with a spy bait, don't blame the spy bait. Remember, conditions change, situations change. You have to be prepared for that. So if you can't get them with a spy bait, try getting them with a swim bait. I bet you'll have more luck.
All right, we're going to try and give this a little whirl. We got the old nickel rig working. And we're just going to kind of try to ease up on in here just a little bit. With this Mako just a little bit. We got time for one last pass, and then that's what we're doing. One, oh, there we go. I got him on the Mako. Ooh, that's a good one too, kids. That's a good. Oh, come here, you. There we go. That's a nice little fish right there. Come on. I say that and then I catch one on the Mako right there. Little 2-pound bass. Come on now. Oops, oops, oops. I don't want to hurt you, buddy. So I'm going to try not to hurt you. But you are a nice little fish. Look at that. Nice little 2-pound bass. Make sure nice little 2-pound bass on the Mako rig. Mako rig wins. That's what wins today. Beautiful little fish. Don't want to throw my rod in the water. All right.
And lastly, I can already hear you saying it, but lowbrow, what if those fish have gone shallow? What if they're hiding under flooded brush, or what if they're right up against the bank? I've been using a spinnerbait. I've been using a lipless. I've had no success. I've tried topwater. I can't get anything out of these fish. I've had a few chase the spinnerbait, maybe even slap at it a couple times, but I haven't had any of those fish to commit. Well, in an instance like that, I'm coming right behind those other baits with something like this, a Mako rig or a wacky rig. I can get right up against that brush. In some instances, I can even skip this right up underneath that brush. And that slow presentation, that slower fall, the fish get a chance to look at it, they have a second to think about it, and then gulp, they inhale it. This is what does the trick for me. I can get this in some pretty tight spots, and I can get those fish to commit when they normally wouldn't. Now, the reason for that is because you have to be able to read the fish's mood. If they're not chasing a spinnerbait, and if they're not chasing topwater, well, They want something more subtle. At least that's been my experience. That's been the indication that I've gotten. And if you've been watching the channel lately, you've noticed that I've had quite a bit of success doing something known as dead sticking. Dead sticking is when you leave that bait out there, you pause it, you don't touch it, you leave it there. Count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, and on and on. Whatever. Now sometimes the fish want a little bit faster presentation. As soon as that bait hits the water, boom, they're on top of it. But a lot of times they want to be able to inspect it. They're unsure, they're spooked, especially if they're pressured. So dead sticking can be a great way to entice those fish. Show them that you're a little bit patient. It's hard to do, I know. But a lot of times the reason that we're not catching fish is not because we're fishing the wrong bait, we're fishing it the wrong way. Sometimes we need to slow that presentation down. And that's why something like a NACO rig is absolutely perfect for that. It forces us to slow down. It forces us to take a breath, take a pause. And, well, you can see by the videos that I've shown you that those fish, after I've let it sit there for a minute, they inhale it. So sometimes, not only is it the bait that we're using, we need to adjust our approach. It's a multifaceted thing. But bass fishing is almost always like that. It can't ever be easy. So there you have it. Whenever the going gets tough, the tough, well, they slow down, they adapt, and they change their presentations. They look out for what the fish want, and they try to match it. When you go out to the lake on those types of days, you understand you're not going to be killing them. You're not going to be putting them in the boat, one right after the other. Some days it's just like that. But if we can eke out a few bites, well, especially some good girls that are mixed in with that, that's a win. And a lot of days, that's all we need, because anything, even a dink, is better than a skunk. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.